Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, with your host, LaToya. This podcast was created as a platform for spreading love. Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, and I am your host, LaToya. I created this podcast in honor of my dad, who was an amazing guy. He had an infectious laugh, and his spirit was magnetic. He was the type of guy who made everybody feel like somebody special. If you were to place him in a crowded room of 100 people, my dad would be the smartest person in the entire room. He was an award-winning radio TV broadcast engineer for many years. Born and raised in the city of Detroit, he was one of the first to go to college in his family. And while attending Wayne State University, he developed a lifelong love affair with the game of basketball. He was the shortest point guard on the team, but he could slam dunk the basketball with either hand. By all outward appearances, my dad lived a rewarding life, but there were parts of him that were known to only him. On March 2nd of 2020, my dad's private struggles became public when he took his own life in a murder-suicide. When he died, a part of me died too. And since the tragedy, I have become an advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. I also created this beautiful podcast in honor of my dad and others like him who are struggling with the effects of mental health challenges. My podcast, Speaking of Love, is named after a show my dad once hosted called Speaking of Sports. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me today as we take a journey in pursuit of the strongest magnetic force on the planet Earth, and that's love. My name is LaToya Bond, and I have a podcast called Speaking of Love. My podcast is dedicated to the memory of my dad who took his own life in a murder-suicide. Aside from that, I am a business owner. I have a home-based business. I am also a legal professional during my 9-to-5 day, and I am a person who operates her entire life on the premise of spreading love. It's the secret to my success. It's the secret to my longevity on this earth, and it's what keeps us going because love is the thing that makes all things beautiful. So that's why I'm here today to talk about my favorite subject in the whole wide world, and that's love. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast. I am your host, LaToya. I have been away for a couple of weeks, but I'm back. I'm refreshed, renewed, and I'm ready to start the next season of my beautiful podcast, Speaking of Love. Today, I have a beautiful young lady here. Dr. Lulu is a queer Nigerian-born pediatrician, mother of a transgender daughter. She's a TEDx speaker. She has been featured on Oprah Daily, CBS This Morning, Parents Magazine, The Washington Post, The HuffPost, Tribe Global, ABC, NBC. She was awarded in 2021 the Youth Advocate of the Year by the San Antonio LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, and she won the 2022 DEI Award by the San Antonio Business Journal. Dr. Lulu helps with parents who have children with LGBTQ. She has helped with students who have suicidal thoughts, and she believes that children of youth, need to have more self-love on their journey. She teaches about self-acceptance and self-affirmations with their children. And her mission, guys, is to end homelessness and suicide, particularly amongst the LGBTQ plus youth. Thank you for being here, Dr. Lulu. How are you today?
I'm good. Was that me you were describing? I've been in all those places. Interesting. Now I'll tell you, you did forget, and that's because I didn't put it. I don't know where I put it, but I didn't put it in some bios, and I put it in some bios. 2023, I was nominated for the Rising Star Award by the San Antonio Women in Business organization. I
Wow.
didn't win, but hey, I was nominated. So yeah, yes.
So where are you right now, Dr. Lulu? Are you in San Antonio, Texas?
I live in where I like to call it North Mexico, but yes, it's San Antonio.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, welcome to Speaking of Love. I read all about you. You are a phenomenal woman, and it's
Thank
truly
you.
an honor to have you here today. So, we're going to take it back and start from the beginning. When
That's a
you were
good place to
growing
start.
up, yes, when you were growing up as a young girl, what was life like for you, Dr. Lulu?
Life was cool. Of course, you don't know what you don't know. So as far as I was concerned, I was living the good life. I was living the soft life as a child. I was a child of two parents. I still have both of my parents alive and still married. I am only comparing myself now to a good chunk of my own children who don't have both parents married. So it's not very hard. It's not a very hard stretch to now look back and see that I had it all. I had everything any child would need. Was I sexually assaulted at 9? Yes. Was I bullied from about age 7 to about 10? Yes. Did they break my spirit? Heck no. I mean, you just kind of go deep within and find that which makes you shine. And once you start shining, honey, they can't take it. The devil can't take your joy. So I had it all and then some. I'm the first of 6 kids. We grew up with both parents. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a little bit. I went to boarding school for high school. It was an all girls high school, which is where I discovered that I like girls.
Mm.
Hmm. So I tell people now that it was like a buffet, but I couldn't eat out of it because I was a virgin till I was like 22. So I was like, yeah, I like you, but I'm here to study. I'm here to get good grades. I'm here to get a scholarship, and that's what I did. I'm here to ace the test, and that's what I did. So I stayed focused. I was very athletic. I've always been a talker. One of the things I love in my history now is that once upon a time, I was talking so much I think it was second grade in elementary school. The teacher could not understand why this girl would not stop talking and she was acing all the work. So my dad said, well, maybe she's bored. They're like, yeah, maybe. So they moved me up one grade. And then the teacher said, I have a brilliant idea. I'm going to send her to the library as a punishment, because she will be quiet at the library. And it's true. I was quiet at the library, and then I discovered a book at the library. And in the past 3 years, I've written those all those books, and two more of them are not here. And two more of them are not here because one of them is a doctor's book, and the other one is a mom's truth, and they're anthologies, and they're for sale wherever they are for sale. I was just a contributor. But the point I'm trying to make is when things happen to you, don't look at it as an obstacle. Look at it as an opportunity. What I did was I read every single book in the library. My vocabulary was ugh. And by the time I graduated from elementary school, I became the librarian. And I actually I like the smell. Okay, I like the smell of books. Okay,
I do too.
I like the smell of books, and I love my audiobook. God knows I pay Audible a good chunk of money every whatever number of days. But there's nothing as good as just kind of and
Mhm.
then dog earing it. And so where did I keep my book versus it's in my phone and I can listen to it. There's nothing wrong with that. I like the smell of old books. I like to
Mhm.
open the book and see that it's got like little bugs in it because they've kind of come and made a home and they've chewed up one word. I'm like, what is that word? It's like you like what you like. And so now I'm like, bye, sweetheart. I'm definitely going to go back. And that's what I did. I went back to that my roots and wrote the first book, and then wrote the second book. This is my baby, the one that just went for basketball when he was 11. He was that short.
Mhm.
Today he's over here at 6'2". But that was 7 years ago. And then I wrote the second book and the third book. And before you know it, I have like 10 more books in my head. Like I just write down the titles. I just write down the
Wow.
titles. So
So
I
what
love words. I love words.
That's beautiful, Dr. Lulu. I'm very curious to know, though, because I have a deep love for children. What made you want to become a pediatrician?
I didn't want to be a pediatrician.
So
I
how
did
did
not
that
want to be. I did not want to be a pediatrician. I didn't even want to be a doctor. So that's a good question. I did not even want to be a doctor. I wanted to be an architect. I still want to be an architect, but I think I'm going to stick with life coach, speaker, author, all around agitator of the governor of Texas. But I wanted to be an architect. And then my dad was like, well, that's kind of like a more masculine job. Don't you want something that's for girls, something girly? I was like what? And he was
Mhm.
like, your cousin is a pharmacist. You should be like her. Wait, my cousin, the same one whose older sister is a doctor? Why do you want me to be a pharmacist when her sister is? So I was like, why do I want to be a pharmacist? I could just, if I'm going to do anything medicine, which I don't really want to, I might as well become a doctor.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of sort of like a dare, an unwritten dare. My dad was like, okay, I'll see. And I was like, I'll see. We'll see. And so I went to med school. And while I was in medical school, I have an affinity for children. I like kids. Not so much my own, just yours. Maybe take your baby home. But and then my classmates were like, girl, if you don't do pediatrics, all my friends were like, the kids love you. I'm like, all right. I wanted to be like one time I wanted to be a urologist, and I wanted to be a radiologist, and I wanted to be a cardiologist. And I realized going back now, I had a crush on the teachers.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was like, I like Mr. Okoro so much. He's a urologist. Okay. And then I like this one so much, and he's a cardiologist. And then I have a crush on this. He's a radiologist. So it was kind of like that.
Mhm.
But I always kind of gravitated down to children. I love
Yes.
breastfeeding. I love teaching about breastfeeding. I wanted to breastfeed my own babies. I breastfed my kids for 2 years each. I wanted to just do
Mhm.
that. I realized that, okay, I can be a pediatrician, but more than that, I can be their friend, their lover, their cousin, their favorite auntie, their doctor and their confidant. I can be all of that and then
Mhm.
help them get better. So I'm like, oh, all right, I'll do it. And then I realized that being a pediatrician means you really have to also parent the parents and then parent the grandparents if you have to. And it was
Mhm.
it was great. It was a great run. I did it for 30 years. I loved it. I'm a pediatrician, just semi-retired. I'm like Michael Jordan. I retired and I don't, then I retired and I don't. But I had a good time doing it. And I think
Mhm.
in life we should all just, in Nigeria we say there's a Yoruba adage that says if you're going to eat frogs, then eat frogs with eggs in them. So it's like if you're going to do something you don't really like, then have fun doing it, right? I could do things I don't like. And so I fast became like this beloved pediatrician, and all my patients now brought their own children. So I became a grand doctor, and it was amazing. It was a great run. And I had promised myself I was going to retire when I turned 30. And when I turned 30 as a doctor, not turned 30 as a person. On my 30th anniversary as a physician, 2021, July 5th, I did a stethoscope hanging up ceremony, and my stethoscope is hanging in my living room.
Wow,
That's it.
that's
So I retired. I
beautiful.
give myself the permission and
Mhm.
empowerment to do it because
Wow. Yeah, you do have a sense of empowerment. I can feel that vibrationally when I'm speaking to you
thank you.
here. Dr. Lulu, you are very supportive to the LGBTQ plus community, and as you know, I am a suicide prevention and awareness advocate, and the suicidal rates have increased in the last few years amongst the LGBTQ plus community. Can you talk to me a little bit about your affiliation with the community and where that desire to help us came from?
So the question is two-pronged. The first one is I work with parents whose children have invited them into their world.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I don't like to use the phrase coming out. I prefer to use inviting in, because, as my second TEDx talk clearly states, whose closet is it anyway? Whose idea was it to put any human experience in a closet? And so what do we put in closets? We put secrets in closets. We put dirty shoes and our jackets from the winter, after the end of the winter to the next winter. Half of the time we're like, oh, this blanket is here. Oh, I've been looking for this. That's what you put in your closet. So why you want to put your child in there? And worse still, why do you want to replace your child in the closet when your child does tell you that they are gay? Because a lot of parents, especially Black parents, I'm just going to go there because I can. Black parents have intense homophobia. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to even look at it. I have news for you, my friends. You can ignore it all you want. It is what it is. And no one that I know would choose to be queer. So when I was 16, when I was in high school, I noticed that. I went to high school at 11, graduated at 16. Nigeria has a British system, so we have a different system for school. It's not the same as America. We don't do junior high and all that crap. We just go to high school, straight from elementary school, and then to college, straight from high school. So there's no pre-med, so I graduated from medical school at 22, for instance. So the point is, I went to high school and I noticed that I kind of like girls. I was kind of digging them. And then I like boys also. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And because my father told me he thought it was a phase, just the power of parents. When I'm talking to parents, I always ask them I say, raise up your hand if you're an influencer. And nobody raises their hands. Then I say, raise up your hand if you're a parent. Then everyone raises their hand. I said, do you realize that parents are the first influencers that kids have? They're like, oh, I said, mm-hmm. And so we are I like to say that while you are always going to be the most important person in your life, you are the most influential person in your child's life. Wow. So when you say to your child that it's a phase, your child will believe it like I did. Mm-hmm. And then I squashed that side of me that liked girls or was attracted to girls. I'm Catholic. I don't want to go to hell and all the bull crap that they serve us. Mm-hmm. So then I turned 42. And I was like, I really, 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 really like Keisha. I really like Keisha. Okay. Keisha's happily married. She doesn't even know that I use her name all the time. She's happily married to Mark. They have a beautiful child, Keenan. I was like, okay, I'm not mess with that. I'm not messy. And people forget that being bisexual is not the same thing as being promiscuous. Mm-hmm. The most promiscuous people on today's earth are heterosexual men. So being bisexual is what I say, but what they hear is promiscuous. That's your problem if you hear what I didn't say. That's one. So number two, I am not only your child because I was a queer child. I am now you because now I'm a parent of a queer child. And the funny story I tell to people is that I always say, God has a sense of humor. And when God was creating me and putting all the things, they were like, are you sure you want to do that? God was like, do I know what I'm doing? Okay, my bad. And then I come and I'm like, so God, please don't make my child gay, okay? And God was like, should I tell her? They were like, no, don't tell her yet. I was like, okay, so please don't make him gay. Don't make him gay. Please don't make him gay. Then God was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell this biatch. Woman, you think being gay is the worst thing your child can be? I got news for you, honey. Mm-hmm. And I've used Mikey when I talk about my child in public, even though her name is not Mikey. But Mikey is not gay. Mikey is transgender. I'm like, why me? What do you mean? Why me? Of all the people you could pick, why would you do this kind of thing to me? And God was like, wait, hold up. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself now? You are an author, a speaker, a radical. Mm-hmm. You're Black, you're immigrant, you're a woman. Mm-hmm. Who do you want me to send to do this work? Mm-hmm. Who do you want me to send? Tell me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, I mean, if you put it that way. What do you mean if I put it that way? That's the only way. You want to tell people that you are all of these and 2 bags of chips? Who do you want me to tell? Who do you know can pull it off? Who else can pull it off? You're Nigerian, one of the
Right.
most religious. God is like, even God used air quotes, one of the most religious countries in West Africa. Don't let me talk about that. But you're
Mm-hmm.
Nigerian. You are my child. You know what their kids are going through because that was you. And now you know what they're going through because now that is you. Who do you want me to send, mama? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, if you put it that way, do you want me to put it in the belly of the, no, 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 don't, I'll do the work, but I have one request. And then God is like, what is it? Say it, whatever. I'm like, please, could you? And then God finishes my sentence. You mean send you people like Latoya-born to make your path straight and help you? Yeah, of course, I got you. I will put everybody you need in your power, everybody you need in your way, everybody you need in your repertoire to get you to do the work. But I need you to say yes now. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm like, okay, God, whatever. That is
So
my
when,
story. Sticking to it.
yeah. So I understand your daughter, was it your daughter or your son, your
It's my
child?
eldest. It's my eldest. It's my eldest child.
Your eldest child came out
It's
to
my
you.
eldest child.
And
This
in the
one.
beginning, you weren't very accepting of the
No, I
experience.
wasn't.
So, and now you've worked to correct the relationship or mend it back together. Can you talk to us a little about that?
Yeah, and that's why I was saying about Black people. We have extreme homophobia. I come from a family with multiple members in the queer community. We don't talk about it. I'm the black sheep because I'm going to talk about it. I'm not
Mhm.
going to my grave with this. This is something that needs to be heard, that it runs in the family and that it's not unique. There's nothing special about it. It just is what it is. Queer people are regular human beings. But because I grew up in a family where my father said it was a phase, I'm Catholic, I am Nigerian. They want to burn you to hell and kill you for being who you are. I didn't want my child to go through that.
Mhm.
And like any parent, no parent is like, so God, I'm pregnant with this child. I love you so much. I want you to have long hair and beautiful eyes, and you have dimples and you'll be gay. No, no parent does that.
Right.
So the natural instinct for me was to say, I don't want you to be gay.
Mhm.
And 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 I was like that for the longest time. Even when I was married to my ex-wife, I still experienced internalized homophobia. There's a name for everything. So now I realize, that's what it was. I used to ridicule, Miss J was the person I was like, why does Miss J have to be so extra on America's Got Talent? No, America's Top Model. Why does he have to be so extra? Can he just be gay and just be okay? Like, he got to be all the. And my child was listening and hearing and internalizing all of this. Every last bit of it, my child was like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell this woman who I am because she's hateful. And that's exactly what she said to me. Mom, you are very,
Right.
very transphobic. Homophobic, yes, but transphobic to be in particular. So I wasn't going to tell you. And you know when my child told me to how I found out my child was non-binary? During their graduation from Stanford. The man kept saying, so said the name of the child. I'm going to say Mikey. Mikey is this, that, they are such and such, and they, da, 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 da. And then I was like, wait, hold up, kid. I thought you were the only one getting the award for excellence. Who are all these other people?
Right.
That's how I knew that they are they, them. What the fuck is that? What is
Mhm.
that? And
Mhm.
so I went through all of the emotions that parents are going through right now. I know
Mhm.
that. I was them. I was you. If you can hear my voice right now, I have been you. I know what it's like to be served a gay child on a platter. I don't care if it's laced in diamonds. You don't want it. However, you can't pray it away. You cannot wish it away. You cannot hide away from it. And what you're doing essentially when you're doing that is essentially pushing your child further away. So you can decide right now to be like my ex-husband. You see, I have all of these people in my family. I have all the content that I need. You can be like my ex-husband, who right now is completely excommunicated from the child. The child is doing the paperwork to divorce. I don't know if that's the word, from their parent, because they're like, Mom, that's my ex-dad. Okay.
Right.
Or you can be like me. I want to be in my child's life. So tell me more. How can I, what do I need to know?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, Mom, I can only tell you so much. You need to go figure it out yourself. I'm like, you know what? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So parents need to just calm down.
And be
Black
accepting.
parents in particular, Black Christian parents. I went there. And if
Mm-hmm.
this message hits you somehow, ask yourself why. Be curious. Why don't you want to hear another Black person telling you that you need to accept your child? The
Yeah.
truth is, we always go to sex. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm grown. I'm 54 years old next month. There's nothing anybody can do about that. Our mind goes to sex. And I'll tell you why. When the two kids are playing in the playground, in the sandbox, and it's a boy and a girl, another Mikey and, I don't know, Suzanne. Mom is happy to say, "Ooh, I think Mikey likes Suzanne. You know what? For Valentine's Day, we're going to see if he wants to make her little cards. Is that okay?" Yes. And then if it's Mikey and Bobby, they're not even going to think, "Oh, he likes Bobby. Oh my God, let's take him out of the sandbox." I want you to watch that. It all comes from the thoughts in your head. Why is it okay for Mikey to like Suzanne at 10 and not Mikey to like Bobby at 10?
Mm-hmm.
You think a 10-year-old child or is already having sex? Is that what you're thinking? And then we start thinking, oh my God, maybe they were molested. Maybe it's the video games. But why don't you think that for the 10-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl? I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying, look at the thoughts in your head. Ask yourself
Mm-hmm.
whence they came. That's it. Because we cannot keep, Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. So
Yeah.
you don't know it now after listening to Dr. Lulu. You know it now. So I have to be the person that's going to speak up. I don't mind speaking up because I know that I wasn't faking it. I didn't choose to be gay. Nobody chooses to be gay, not in today's world with all the what? Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't choose it. My kid didn't choose it. And I know that. And one of the things I like to say is if you're not Black, you cannot tell me how to be Black. You cannot tell me anything about being Black. Same thing about being gay or queer. If you're not queer, you have no theory about being queer because you
Right.
don't know. Unless, of course, you know. Then that
Mm-hmm.
means you are gay, which brings me back to internalized homophobia. Then at that point, it's a choice to hate yourself and declare that God delivered you from gayness if you like, if it makes you feel better, if it makes you sleep well at night. But you know in the silence of your heart that it's a lie because you cannot get delivered from who you are. Like, God delivered me from being Black. You need medication if you're thinking that because that's not possible.
Right. So, Dr. Lulu, the LGBT community, the suicide rates are rising.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to talk to you a little bit about this because you are an advocate for suicide prevention.
Yes.
And I want to know if there's someone watching right now who's struggling with their sexual identity and they're not sure what role they want to take, if they want to come out to their family, to their parents, if they just want to end their lives. What advice would you give to someone who's stuck in that part, who's not sure what way to go?
Yeah.
What would you say to prevent them from taking their own life?
So one of the things I say is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's anything that has been known to prevent you from taking your life. I don't know that. I don't sell snake oil. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you something that I don't know. If it was possible, Hollywood would be complete today. Hollywood has lost a lot of fine persons to suicide. So it's not something I can say, okay, do this, do that, and you will not kill yourself. No, I'm going to tell you though, that you have to think about the fact that all the things you're saying to the loudest voice in your head is always yours. All the things you're saying to yourself are usually someone else that's saying it. So be curious as to where did that come from? That those words that made you start hating yourself. Who said it? What was their own reasons for saying that? That's their own thought process. That was their thoughts. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're gay, straight, bi. I don't know what you are. But you know who you are. We all do. I know who I am. I know I'm a cisgendered queer woman. I'm bisexual. I know that. But when I start going against that, that's when I'm stuck. See? So being stuck is actually when you are refusing to live in authenticity, to live your full self. And I know it's hard. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that a 9-year-old who realizes that they're attracted to the same gender, same sex, has an option because they're still a child. But a 19-year-old is different. They're most likely in college. They can move out. They can start their own life. There are all sorts of options. There are support groups. Suicide is the last option, but I do recognize how suicide can be the first option for everyone because I have been suicidal myself. I wanted to drive off of our own 410 right here in San Antonio. So it's not something that I haven't looked in the eye. The reason it didn't happen that day was because I couldn't find a room to make it look like an accident to drive off of the highway. So I'm here today because I was not meant to die that day. So I'm here to say that one thing I have found that helps with people that have, when the voices really, really start doing all the things they're doing. Yes, you can take medication. I mean, people take medicines because a lot of people believe that it's depression that causes that. But I dare to say the medicine is an antidepressant. But the question to ask yourself is, what was the trauma that created the petri dish for depression to foster? Usually it's something. Maybe your parents maybe they disowned you. That's a trauma.
Yeah.
Maybe your mama disowned you. That's a trauma. Maybe your best friend died of suicide. That's trauma. There's usually an inciting agent. And the definition of depression is when you start hyper focusing your thoughts on something that's already happened. That's depression.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is hyper focusing your thoughts on something that hasn't happened yet. Both of them, you have a choice to make. That's why I love coaching. Coaching helps you see your brain in action. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it doable. You have to now ask yourself some hard questions. What is it that happened to you? What triggered you start thinking this way about yourself? Because it's something. You know how they say, don't stop at the first why, ask 5 whys. Okay, then why do you feel that way? Okay, then why, what happened that made that? When you start getting curious, again, curiosity comes up a lot in the work that I do. When you start getting curious about that, you will, if you're honest with yourself, if you allow yourself to sit with the emotions, people want to jump because they don't want to sit with the emotion. They don't want to experience it. But the thing about experiencing hard emotions is once you do it one time, you can get better at it. I have never said don't take antidepressants if your doctor prescribes it and if you want to. What I say is, in addition to that, you have to ask yourself the critical questions so you can come off of the medication. Because you know the funny thing about the way those medicines are designed is for you to take them indefinitely. So who is really benefiting from you taking the medicine? And if you go back, they up the dose, they increase the dose. It's not working. Because those thoughts, nobody has told you to sit and let's look at what happened. And that's why my first TEDx talk, I said the most important question to ask your child is, what happened? So, Guinea Mary, what happened? Something caused this the very first day. And unless you face that, unfortunately, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's that easy, but it's doable. People are doing it. People are coming off of their medicines. They are taking charge of their lives. The mind is a powerful thing.
And the first thing
is a powerful thing. You can't mess with the mind. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The first step too, like you said, is to go within to get the help and find out where this started. And it's also important to get help.
Reach out. Yes, that's the second thing. Yeah, so absolutely.
I've got the suicide lifeline number here. It's 988. Just like you would dial 911 in an emergency situation. If you're feeling suicidal, if life has gotten the best of you and you just don't want to be here anymore, before you make that major decision, that life-changing ending decision, please dial 988 for Suicide Lifeline number. There are trained professionals there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that can help you. So please think about this. You
I love
matter.
I love the 988, but also for those who don't want to speak, because there's always people who don't want to talk to anybody. You
Yeah.
can text Steve or text help or text home
Mm-hmm.
to the text line, which is 741-741. You can even call 911 if you just forget 988,
Yes,
forget the
exactly.
number. I say call somebody. You can
Mm-hmm.
even call your friend. Like, the problem with calling someone is if they're not available, your brain will tell you, see, I told you they're not going to pick up the phone. You know what I mean? Like things like that. So calling a lifeline where there's a warm-blooded human being to pick up the phone is there. But before you decide to call, you have to first agree with yourself that you need to call. You know what they say about if you could have done it by yourself, you will have done it already. A lot of times that is where the critical thing is, that calling. There's this shame attached to calling. There's shame attached to, oh, people are going to think I'm weak. There's all of those things. I know, because I felt those things. They're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I have 3 cars and a beautiful house by the ocean. And I'm, that is your brain talking. That's not you.
Right.
And I need you to sit with the thought. One of my friends and I, we had a podcast, and we did 100 things to do before you jump, is what we call it.
Mm.
Even folding your socks, doing your laundry, getting out of the house, going for a walk, calling somebody and asking them, how can you help them? Do anything to get yourself out of thinking about you. These are
Yes.
practical tips. You don't have to take them. Don't listen to Dr. Lulu. But I'm telling you right now, the word compassion means wanting to help somebody. And when
Mm.
you're focused on compassion, helping somebody else, you will never think about yourself. That's why people that volunteer are happy people, because they're helping somebody else who may or may not be able to help themselves. I mean, doesn't mean that they're not going to die by suicide someday. I'm not, the situation is more complex than this conversation right here. However, these are little things you can do. Get out of the house. Get rid of potential weapons. Don't
Yeah.
put the things that I know my pills are there. I know I'm just going to keep it here in case of one day. No, get rid of it, right?
Mm.
Get rid of the firearms. These are things that are proven to increase the risk of severe injury, possibly death, if they're present in your house. Get rid of them. Find a friend that knows that you're struggling with this, and they are your lifeline, and you know you can call them at any time. But the problem with that is make sure that the friend can do it, because there's something called compassion fatigue. And
Mm.
that's where the 988 comes in, the 911 comes in, the 741 comes in. All of those other people come in for, when African Americans, let's just go there for a minute. When you're having a heart attack, they don't call 911, they call their mama.
Right.
They call their mama. So I'm giving you an option if you don't want to call 911, but really, truly, call 911. However, in America today, you and I know somebody can call 911. They just happen to be Black. Next thing, they are the wrong end of the gun. These are real
Yeah.
issues that America
Yeah.
is dealing with. So 988 may very well be your bestest option. But leading to the day you decide to call 988, I want you to be okay with doing these 3 things that I tell my patients with anxiety. Number 1, acknowledge it. Acknowledge the thoughts that are coming. Say, okay, I hear you. Acknowledge it. Somebody's knocking on your door. You cannot ignore it for so long. Just say, okay, I hear you. Open the door. Stand at the door, though. And then
Mm-hmm.
what you do is you analyze the thoughts. You're not good enough. You're awful. You're a horrible human being. Say, oh, really? Tell me more. Be
Wow.
curious about these things. Ask yourself questions like, how did you know that? Where'd you get that idea from? Who told
Mm-hmm.
you that I'm not good enough? Challenge those thoughts. And then
Right.
I'm a journaler. I love to journal. Grab your self-love journal from Dr. Lulu and write in it. Write
Mm-hmm.
all the reasons why you love yourself today. That's what the journal says. Today, I love myself because. Write all the reasons you love yourself today, or you love yourself yesterday. When the time comes, open the book and read it. Okay. Oh my God, I met this guy called Nate, the bearded guy from Alaska. Yeah, that was fun, And I completed my tour of Kingsville. Ooh, nice. So all these things are reasons why I love myself. I'm reaching out to more people for general coaching. So in my
Mhm.
mind, I'm like, okay, these are things that I'm doing. So what if I'm doing this? Why are you telling me I'm not good enough? You see that? Challenge your thoughts. And
Mhm.
then, based on the result of your analysis, which is the second A, so acknowledge, analyze, and then act. And I
Mhm.
promise you, if you want to set your alarm, do what I tell my clients to do 25 minutes. Just set the alarm 25 minutes to do this process and write down all the things that you know that are good about you. Because one day your brain is going to say you're not good. You're going to say, really? Okay, I got news for you. Hold on.
Mhm.
I actually called Chris Flores and asked how he's doing.
Mhm.
Chris Flores is the guy that hit my Mercedes while he was parked at the mall. I left his phone number and said, call me about the damage to your car. And I
Mhm.
called him to ask how he's doing because I know he did not go out that night to hit my car. That is a
Right.
good thing that I did. And I love myself because of that. And I just opened a random page and read it. So these things will remind you that you are good.
Mhm.
No
And
doctor is going to tell you to do that. Go ahead.
I love what you're doing with your self-love journal.
Yes.
In essence, it's almost like a safety plan. I learned about safety plans too, and it's like reading back over it. It's almost like a safety plan. Can you talk to our audience today about your self-love journey, your self-love retreat, the book that you've just posted here?
I
Talk
love
to
it.
us about this, Dr. Lulu. This is very interesting.
So the way I came up with the self-love, the whole self-love concept is towards the end of last year, and I think the middle of last year, it hit me that one of the biggest reasons why parents don't accept their children who are LGBT is actually because the parents don't accept themselves.
Mm,
You see, my whole life, quote unquote, I've had this dream for my child, and it doesn't include being queer. And then
mhm,
suddenly my child is like, I'm gay. No, you're not. No, 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 you're not. Because that means I'm a parent of a gay. No, of a gay. No. But what I'm doing is I'm making it about me. I'm
mhm.
making the story that they've told me, their reality, means something negative about me. Oh,
Exactly.
that means I'm a bad parent. That means I groomed you. That
Mhm.
means I'm not
I'm
religious enough.
responsible for this. Yeah.
Yes, girl.
Mhm.
That means I'm not religious enough. That means people are going to say I did something bad to make you gay. So they've internalized it and made it feel like they made their child to be gay, but you didn't do that. Your
Right.
child was going to be gay if they are somebody else's child. Does that make sense? Like if
Sure.
Dr. Lulu was another random family's child, I'm still going to be gay in that family. But what I want
Exactly.
parents to do is realize that you didn't do anything. And that's why I have on my website, dr-lulu.com, you can download a free PDF of 7 mistakes that parents make when their kids tell them that they're gay. There are many mistakes, but that's just the top 7 that we could come up with that I came up with. Like they don't believe them, they think it's a
Mhm.
sexual assault, they think it's a social media, they think it's their friends, they think it's a fake, they think it's a choice, they think it's all these things, right? And then the parent thinks,
Mhm.
oh, it's what did I do wrong? Where did I fail? What did I? Once you start thinking about you, going back to the suicide now, think about this. When you start thinking about you, there's no room to think about your child. And your
Exactly.
child just told you, Mom, I think I'm a boy at the age of 5, or I'm a
Mhm.
girl at the age of 3, or whatever. You're like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. And so I realized that lack of self acceptance is the critical step for parents to now turn around and accept their kids. You have to first accept yourself. And that's why I said some parents replace their kids in the closet, right? But
Mhm.
what is driving lack of self acceptance? Lack of self love.
Yes. Yes.
Because now you don't like, think about it, you don't like that part of you that produced this child. That's what my ex-husband is going through now. He thinks somehow made the kid gay. He blamed me. He said I made the child gay. I said, wait, we have 3 kids though. What about the other 2? Like, really? But the
Mhm.
point I'm trying to make is they start thinking and thinking and thinking, and then they start hating that aspect of themselves. And so I realized if I can love all of me, both the parts that I like So if I can love all of me, both the parts that I like and the parts that I don't like, if I can love the whole self, then I will not have any room to not love the product of this beautiful love. And so
Yes. Yeah.
I said, well, if I did, I've always wanted to make a journal. Says if I had a journal for self-love, I don't want it to just write randomly on your journal. I want you to be very specific and intentional. Today, I love myself because, like
Mhm.
last night, I came home and I wrote before I went to bed. I love myself because I said I did it. I took myself on a self date. I've never gone on a date by myself before, ever. 54 years old next month. But I love myself because of that. So I said, I did it. I took myself on a self date. And now I wrote, I only wish I had done it sooner because I had so much fun doing it. Now, I'm not saying you cannot write on a regular random journal, but I like my journal. And I think it's a good idea to be prompted on what you like. That makes you sit down and say, you know what, I love myself today because I also wrote here that I did a short video on TikTok to thank my child for being my virtual assistant. She
Aw.
doesn't, she's not on TikTok, but I did
Oh.
it. And other parents are like, oh, this is so nice. This is so nice. I just did it because I was like, oh my God, I really thank her. Then I turned around and I told her about it. She's like, oh, Ma, and gave me a hug. But I didn't, you know what I mean? So I want parents to love themselves. And so out of the self-love journal, I said, you know what? What if I have a retreat for parents of queer kids to come
Mm-hmm.
and talk about ways we have either failed ourselves in loving ourselves or ways that we should love ourselves that we're not loving ourselves, or ways that we are loving ourselves. Like this thing I did last night, I sat in the car and I wanted to make a U-turn. And my friend Kat was like, have you gotten a glass of wine? I said, glass of wine? I don't drink wine. She's like, just get in there. I was like, no, I don't want to go. She's like, go in there and go have fun, you know?
That's
And I did.
beautiful.
Yes. And so the retreat is next month. Thank you for asking. Is next month. I'm really excited because we're going to talk about self-love. We're going to do a lot of things. We're having a whole photo shoot, an African themed photo shoot. We're going to
Oh.
have my friend Billy Ray Sax on the saxophone, belting out love songs while we do our photo shoot, while we dress up and glam up. We're going to have a massage. We're going to have coaching. We're going to have quiet time to write in your journal. We're going to have a trip downtown to San Antonio. We rented a
So the,
20,000.
so the retreat is going to be in Texas.
Yes, it's in San Antonio, Texas. Yes.
Okay. And if people need more information about the retreat, they can go to your website.
Yes, they can go to my website. Can I put it in the chat?
Well, I think I have it up here. It's dr-lulu.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my website. Yes, so
Okay.
it's dr-lulu.com
Okay.
forward
Perfect.
slash
So,
retreat. Yes, forward
oh,
slash retreat
okay.
is
Perfect.
the retreat.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Lulu, it has been such a pleasure speaking here with you today. We're running out of time a little bit, but I do have a few more questions for you.
No problem.
This podcast was created in honor of my dad,
Yes.
who took his own life in a murder suicide. And
Yeah.
my dad used to host a radio show many years ago, and the radio show was called Speaking of Sports.
Ah.
And I created this podcast here, Speaking of Love, in honor of him.
Mm.
So the $1,000,000 question that I ask all of my guests who sit before me is, Dr. Lulu, how do you define love?
Wow. You know, the dictionary will say love is a doing word, is a verb, is an
Mm-hmm.
action word. In other words, you cannot just love and just, oh, I just love you. You have to do stuff to support it.
It's
So I
action.
think I would define love as the totality of why we were made to live on this earth. I
Mm.
mean, they say love one another. The good book says, and the greatest of these is love. But I think even before you can love anybody on the outside, you gotta love yourself first.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
said, love everything about you. Both the things that, like right now, I have high blood pressure, I have fibromyalgia, I have C-spine stenosis. I struggle with body pain, chronic pain 24/7. And I still love myself. I love my pain. When it comes, when it flares up, I want to love that aspect and just tell you, no, I hear you. I know you're trying to tell me something and I'm here for you.
Mhm.
So love is a totality of self-awareness, self-care, self-compassion, self
Mm-hmm.
honor that, so that from the abundance of that,
Mm-hmm.
I'll love someone else. And then
Beautiful.
someone else can love you. So,
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lulu. That's amazing. We have my girlfriend Lisa Allen Thompson here from
oh,
Alabama.
hi, Lisa. Oh, hi, Lisa.
She saw your flyer yesterday and she said Dr. Lulu has a beautiful smile. So she's here today to show her love and support. Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, you have a beautiful smile also. Very few people like to smile with all of their teeth, and I'm one of them. And Lisa too.
So,
Lisa, if
Dr.
you can
Lulu,
hear me.
beautiful. Dr. Lulu has a retreat for self love. If anyone watching or listening is interested in becoming a part of her beautiful self love, please go to her website, www.dr-lulu.com /retreat. Again, that's dr-lulu.com /retreat, and just learn more about her self-love journey. She has a journal that she has written for us, and there's going to be a beautiful retreat coming up next month in Texas. So please reach out to Dr. Lulu. And before we conclude the interview, Dr. Lulu, I do have one last question for you. When the pages of your life are reviewed, Dr. Lulu, and your mission here on the planet Earth is complete, what do you most want to be remembered for?
I definitely want to be remembered for living my life to the fullest, like just doing everything that I wanted to do. I joined the military at 42. Nobody could believe it. They're like, have you lost your mind? I quit medicine after 30 years. I'm moving to San Diego because my kid is going off to college, the youngest one. I am doing everything that I promised myself I wanted to do. My inner child will be happy. The one
Mm,
that was molested at 9, the one that was bullied for 3 years, the one that was slapped to the point that I lost hearing on my right ear from a boyfriend, that one. The one that
mm.
was raped at 17, that one. She'll be like, we're proud of you. You did that, girl. You did it. We did it.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Lulu. You
Welcome.
are truly amazing. And it's such an honor to have you here today as I kick off my Black History Month segments. So today was the first episode. I truly appreciate you for being here. You are a phenomenal woman. And
Thank
I
you.
bow to your excellence. I bow to your excellence. You are
Namaste.
amazing. And you're stepping out and you're speaking on topics that people tend not to want to talk about. So I thank you for having that courage. And thank you for being here as my 119th guest on Speaking of Love, the podcast. If you all listening have missed any portion of this podcast, you can catch it live on YouTube. You can catch it on Facebook. Wherever you choose to listen to your podcast, Speaking of Love is there. And I will be back here next week with another guest. Dr. Lulu, is there anything else you'd like to share before we go?
No, I think I've shared enough, but I think, yeah, well, I guess you know what? Yes, I do have a parent support group and parent coaching program, and we meet every Monday. The first Monday night is always free, it's affordable. And I say affordable because I always ask people, can you afford not to accept your child? Can you afford not to support your child? The tail end of that is suicide. So, I mean, is that what you want? And obviously, that's not what you want. So, come join us, meet other parents like you who have been there doing that, loving it, and then we have each other. So, join us on Monday nights. That'll be on my website, dr-lulu.com /support.
Wonderful.
Support.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lulu, for being here. And I will be back next week with another episode of Speaking of Love. In the meantime, I want every person here to know that you are loved and your existence on the planet Earth matters. And just keep being here. Stay alive for the rebirth because you never know what tomorrow can bring. So I love you all. Have a good week. And we'll be back here next week. Dr. Lulu,